Dear viewers, welcome to a new episode of Names from the Past. I sailed in the name of Allah is the course of my ship. I hastened on it to prayer initiating. ركبت على اسم الله مجرى سفينتي وعجلت فيها الصلاة مبادرة. Those are the verses from the Meccan poem written by today's hero in one of his most beautiful poems. Indeed, he was a poet, but we knew him for what he was distinguished at and perfected, being a sailor, an explorer, and an astronomical geographer, a literary man, a scientist, and the inventor of the sea compass. That was Ibn Majd, the sea lion. Ibn Majd received his early education at the hands of his father, Majd ibn Muhammad al-Sa'di, with a number of other sailors. He was keen on attending their sessions and debates, which were held on board of the ships moored in the Omani ports. That greatly contributed to qualifying him to become a prominent sailor, being so brilliant that he outperformed his father and teacher. He taught himself how to calculate the measurements of the stars and observe their rising and setting, locations, movements, and impact on the marine seasons. Ibn Majd did not stop at applying the navigational and geographical information that he learned from his grandfather, father, and those before them, but he criticized them, corrected a lot of their mistaken information, and also added to his practical and personal experience, which he later wrote down in his poems. This helped spread his knowledge and protect it from loss. In Ibn Majd's writings, we notice his extensive knowledge, as well as his criticism of the information of former sailors.
At times, I find myself pondering the realities of people that have crossed lands, indubitably prior to our existence. What had they prioritized in their travels, and how had they imagined a world much smaller than what we see today? The Stoic will persuade you to visualize the people of the past as idols that have set benchmarks for our discoveries, growth, and achievements. In this piece, we should reflect on what one man could learn, and such a person with a passion to ride currents and fight the sea according to the placement of the stars. Ahmad ibn Majd, born somewhere in Ras al-Ghayma and Oman, was a man of the sea in the 15th century. Attributed to him were his publications that have assisted and expanded the study of the sea, from principles to methodologies to tools that have changed the way travelers looked at crossing seas indefinitely. An Arab navigator that played a pivotal role in establishing connections between the East and the West by mapping the parts of the world he existed in. We could go into discussion about his assistance to Vasco da Gama and the controversy behind who initially got the Portuguese to India, but that isn't our main concern. We have more important things to highlight. So, what did this man have that can be of any benefit to our existence today, other than the fact that half the buildings in Ras al Khaimah in the UAE are called Jlfar, and the vague information we have on his background. A penny for my thoughts, and I'd be amazed.
He is Shihab ad-Din Ahmed ibn Majid al-Sa'di, a traveler and a geographer. He amazed people all over the world with his writings and the important studies which were recognized by all those interested in studying travels and explorations. And the Portuguese were the first to point out the importance of Ibn Majid's geographical discoveries. So they were keen on studying his sciences to benefit from them, to achieve their discoveries in geography. Ibn Majid was born in Jlfar, a city located on the southern coast of the Arabian Gulf, in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. Most historians agree that he was born in the year 1432, around 836 Hijri. Ibn Majid was given many nicknames, including the Tourist Majid and the Sea Lion. Ibn Majid's father was a famous sailor nicknamed Skipper of the Two Seas, the sea routes of the Arabs and the sea routes of the foreigners, and wrote about his experiences in a book titled Al-Urjuz al-Hijaziyya, the Hijazi poem, in more than 1,000 verses about maritime navigation in the Red Sea. Ahmed ibn Majid learned from his father's experience in navigation and became more famous than his father, and was classified among the most famous Arab sailors and one of the most experienced and knowledgeable ones.
He wrote numerous poems and observations about astronomy, stratigraphy, mathematics, physiognomy, signaling, carpentry, and even psychology and sociology. In his writings, we notice the mixing between prose and poetry. Ibn Majid was also a lover of culture and science. In various fields, he read many different books, such as The Arabization of Almagest by Ptolemy, the books of Al-Banani, the book of Abu Hanifa Dinawari, the book The Common by Yaqut al-Hamawi, the books of Ibn Said, and the books of Ibn Hawqal, in addition to fluently speaking many languages, such as Hindi, Swahili, and Persian. He also learned Arabic, Hindi, Zanj, Java, and Chinese arithmetics. Among the contributions of Ibn Majid were inventing and developing with his friends of several tools, including the sundial and the astrolabe.
The studies of Ibn Majid have reflected three key principles from which he learned while sailing alongside his father, which made him both the lion and prince of the sea: prior to sending him off on his own at 17, the principles set for him were to perfect his reading and writing, to memorize the Qur'an, and to memorize the books his father gave him about seafaring. Imagine the power of a man that need not waste time digging up a reference, but consistently pulling guidance from memory, as though his rubric was a recitation. The contents in your head are the contents you are. Having developed the kamal, a device made of wood and calibrated string used to identify the point on the latitude in accordance with the pole star's height in the horizon, he ventured the sea with a backing knowledge of current movements, winds, reefs, shoals, headlands, harbors, sea marks, and stars in which he spent a lifetime studying. Putting your thoughts together, when you reflect on the night sky, you don't necessarily know what stars you're looking at or where they're placed in comparison to your current location.
Ibn Majid, one of the most important and most famous navigators in the 15th century AD, contributed to writing many books about the seas and navigation and its sciences. Orientalists discovered his works in the 20th century, and here we highlight the most important books and poem collections of Ibn Majid. The Brief Account of the Origins of Marine Science, a book that contains information about the rules of maritime navigation written in the form of poetic verses. It consists of 178 verses of poetry and was written by Ibn Majid to correct the measurements of the Gulf of Aden and its waterways from the port of Hafun to Bab el-Mandeb, and from the Somali coastal ports to the port of the opposite Arabian coast. Al-Urjuz al-Sabi'a, the Poem of Seven, a poem about 7 types of sciences related to the sea, written by Ibn Majid in 888 Hijri. The Qibla Classifications, a poem in 295 verses, composed by Ibn Majid to describe the direction of the Qibla in all the countries of the ancient world, and he finished writing in the year 893 Hijri. The Poem of the Arabian Sailing Courses in the Gulf, a poem written by Ibn Majid describing the routes of the Arabian Gulf in about 100 verses. The Benefits of the Origin of Marine Sciences and the Rules in Maritime, a book with 12 pieces of information about marine sciences.
And he was able to combine the windrows and the magnetic needle, developing a new device that represents the horizon circle according to the 4 directions based on the rising and setting of certain known stars. That device was used to determine the distance covered by a ship between 2 degrees as well as angle of travel and latitude. Ibn Majid had the credit of fixing the magnetic needle on a pivot point in the center to move freely over the windrows, an invention that has remained until today known as marine compass in the scientific circles. The whole world gives the credit to Ahmed ibn Majid for that invention, so much so that the government of Portugal built a monument of him in the city of Malindi to commemorate him in recognition of his achievements in international navigation and marine sciences. Ibn Majid was an experienced sailor, observant and passionate about his profession and willing to master it and to teach other sailors his secrets.
A belief of Ibn Majid's with his work is the imagination of your reality. To imagine the sea you will cross, the placement of the stars above you, and the current that can only be felt. This is what made him a master of his craft. The prince himself had a ripple effect for his fearlessness, grit, and resilience to take on seas rougher than any human can bear, be it in the past, present, and probably future. A reflection of a harsher reality that they must have lived. In link to the earlier statement of the Stoic placing idols on the path as guidance, Ibn Majid may very well be a character that has reflected resilience and knowledge in his time, an indication of innovation and perseverance and what it looked like in times before ours.
The sciences of geography and trade and buried sea voyages witnessed great developments by the Arabs, who used the compass in their voyages to identify appropriate routes for maritime navigation. Ahmed ibn Majid made many contributions to the science of geography. Such contributions became popular among people in voyages and navigation. His contributions represent a group of useful study references in the field of marine science, the most important of which are the following: correcting the wrong and erroneous information about marine science of the sailors before him, using the practical and theoretical methods in experimenting and analyzing navigation issues, the invention of the marine compass to help sailors determine the correct locations for their trips, which helped them in the sea and protected them from loss. He was also interested in developing the compass by adding a needle that determined directions to its box. That needle stops pointing to the north by a magnet in the compass. The compass was not known in Europe until after the 15th century. Contributing to providing protection for ships by helping them to stay away from the dangerous areas in the seas and oceans, which contributed to increasing the development of trade among countries by providing advice to avoid and overcome tough weather conditions while ships are sailing in the sea paths and routes.
The reason we learn about what people have once done and where they have ventured allows us to discover more than we can think. To think there was once a time where the seas were not discovered like today, or the lands have not been mapped to accuracy. Even the language we speak varied. Yet, they still brought us to today, a globalized world framed and established by stones set before us. This is an ode to all travelers that have opened the doors to discovery and curiosity and taught us how to wonder. It's amazing how we have a local pioneer who has made an eternal name for himself and many educational establishments. It personally draws a smile on my face. All in all, his legacy is as eternal as his knowledge, in which we are forever in his debt and gratitude. Until next time, stay tuned for more information regarding such remarkable historical figures in the Arab world.
From the books in which Ibn Majid wrote, the most important things we learn are the following. A captain must be well informed about the phases of the moon and the stars, the islands, distances, measurements, signals, the movements of the sun and the moon, the winds and their seasons, the seasons of the sea and the instruments of the ship. Ibn Majid also referred to the need to know the fluctuations of the sea and the climate and sea and land animals. About a captain he says, he must be well informed, strong-willed, and a man of determination, a just man who is never unjust to anyone. He does not upset the merchants, he is vigorous and tolerant and accepted among people. He never seeks what is not suitable for him. He must also be a seasoned writer and of intelligence, otherwise he wouldn't be worthy of leadership. About the skill of the skipper he says, caution is essential, especially in the deep waters of Tihan and Hashish. Should night fall on you while being in the dark water and sailing in deep waters all night long, be very cautious and for every deep water calculate the wind speed and direction. Ibn Majid explains his policy in arranging the boat crew and the military, managing the rudder and setting up compass, saying, because there is always defect on ships, observe the machines and check the passengers, stay up late and fight sleep. Ibn Majid combined besides the qualities of a sailor, those of a poet and a writer, describing the stars, the moon, the night and the waves, quoting from sayings and poems, from hadith and from the poetry of Antara and Al-Akhtal and the great proverbs of the Arabs.
أحمد بن ماجد اسمه الكامل، اسمه أحمد بن ماجد بن محمد بن عمر بن فضل بن الدويك بن يوسف بن حسن بن حسين بن أبي معلق السعدي ابن أبي الركايب النجدي السعدي. بني سعد وتميم في القصيم. الآن النجد والقصيم ومن هناك إيش اللي يجيبه إلى هنا؟ بنمشي نحن بالأحداث التي جرت والتي دفعت ببني تميم لهذه الهجرة. نلاحظ هنا هذه الخارطة، هذه الجزيرة العربية، والخطوط الحمر الذي في هذه البقعة هذا يسمونه طريق البصرة، وهذا يسمى طريق بغداد. ونلاحظ أن الطريقين هذين يتقاطعون هنا، يبقى هذه هي القصيم. ما هي صفة القصيم؟ تكثر فيها المياه العذبة، العيون، الينابيع، الوديان الخصبة، المنتجات الزراعية. طيب، إذن نلاحظ أن الطريق يتقاطع هنا على التزود بالغذاء، وإذا فجأة في سنة 656 يأتي الغزو المغولي ويحتل بغداد وينقطع هذا الطريق. بعد انقطاع هذين الطريقين هاجرت الناس، خرجوا. في ناس خرجوا إلى ناحية الخليج من الناحية الثانية، وفي ناس أتوا إلى الخليج بس من ناحية طريق البصرة. هذا هو الخليج، وفي أسماء كثيرة، لكن حنبين أين استوطنوا هؤلاء الناس اللي أتوا، وهم بنو تميم جملة، وبنو سعد عشيرة من تميم. في هذه البقعة استقروا هنا، اسمها شط بني تميم. جو إلى واشتهر واستقروا هنا. طيب، هذه البقعة كانت خارج عن السيطرة المغولية، لم يصلوا لهذه الأماكن. الآن تغير في الخليج سياسي كبير، والتغير أصبح على جهتي الخليج، يا أما عمان يا أما هرمز. ونلاحظ أن عمان منذ تأسست على يد مالك ابن فهم في سنة 328 تقريبا.
He was an adventurer and fond of going to new places. He visited India, the Levant, the land of Zanj, Persia, Hijaz, Yemen, Indonesia, and Java. He wanted for sailors to strive to master the sciences of the sea. So he wrote books for them saying, I summed up what suits the people of my time in this book, titled The Book of Benefits in the Origins of the Sea and the Rules. I wrote and classified it for seafarers and captains. It contains many benefits, mysteries, and phenomena. All those qualities made Ibn Majid worthy of the title, The Sea Lion. We hope you enjoyed our episode. We'll meet again with a new episode and a new personality. Until then, goodbye.